If you've ever felt like you work hard and still stand in the same place, you're not imagining it. Poverty is not only a number in a bank account, it is a web of invisible rules, habits, narratives, incentives, and environments that quietly shape decisions all day long. Once these rules take hold, they reinforce each other. They create stress, which shortens your time horizon. A shorter horizon makes long-term planning feel pointless, and without plans, the future keeps looking like the past. The path out isn't about shaming people or pretending discipline alone is enough. It begins with naming the rules that keep you trapped so you can design a life that breaks them, step by step, with compassion, and with systems that work even on your worst day. The first rule sounds harmless because it's celebrated everywhere: live for today. Financially, living only for the present drains tomorrow before it arrives. When every paycheck is fully spoken for, there's no slack, no shock absorber for a flat tire or a sick day. The mind adapts to this by treating the future as a stranger. Psychologists call it present bias. We overweight the pleasure or relief of now and underweight the benefit of later. In poverty, present bias is often born from necessity, not negligence. But once it settles in, compounding can't do its work, and small emergencies become expensive crises. The second rule turns relief into a lifestyle: normalize debt. Debt begins as a bridge. I'll just cover this week and catch up next month, and becomes a road you never step off. Interest, late fees, and rollover charges compound against you faster than savings ever could compound for you. The danger is not only mathematical, it's psychological. Debt becomes invisible when everyone around you carries it. The mind shifts from "I borrowed" to "this is how money works." The reality is harsher. Every euro of future income is already sold to the past. Without interrupting this norm, you can't build assets because your cash flow belongs to your creditors. A third rule keeps people from fighting back: avoid the numbers. If opening the banking app creates dread, you avoid it. Unopened envelopes pile up. You promise yourself you'll deal with it later, and the uncertainty taxes your mind every hour. Avoidance protects your feelings today, but costs you options tomorrow. The paradox is that the moment you look, stress often goes down. Once you meet the numbers, you can move them. Without visibility, you drift. With visibility, you can design. Underneath avoidance is a deeper rule: scarcity narrows your world. When you don't have enough, your brain devotes most of its attention to immediate problems. Researchers call this tunneling. Tunneling makes you good at solving today's fires and bad at preparing for tomorrow's storm. You skip cheaper yearly payments because the monthly feels survivable. You decline opportunities that require a small upfront cost. You don't apply for benefits because the forms look long. Nothing is wrong with you, your bandwidth is consumed. But scarcity's side effect is brutal. It steals the very mental fuel you'd use to escape it. Then there's the rule of distrust. If your experience with institutions, banks, employers, schools has included fees, rejection, or disrespect, it makes sense to stay outside the system. Cash feels safer than a bank that might charge overdrafts. A paycheck under the table feels cleaner than paperwork you fear you'll mess up. The problem is that staying informal is expensive. Without accounts, you miss automatic transfers, lower-cost credit, and proof of income that landlords or lenders require. Without official records, you don't qualify for programs meant to help you. Distrust feels protective. Invisibility becomes a cage. Status spending is another rule that looks like freedom. When money is rare, the urge to display it is strong. A new phone, shoes, or car broadcasts "I'm not stuck." In neighborhoods where opportunities are scarce, status is a form of safety. It can earn respect or deter exploitation. The tragedy is the arithmetic. Every euro spent proving you're not poor is a euro that keeps you poor. The performance buys applause from people who won't pay your bills. Meanwhile, quiet money, emergency funds, dividends, skills, doesn't photograph well and therefore receives less social reward. If your circle only praises consumption, building will feel lonely. There's also a rule about time. Poverty shortens it. When income is unstable, payday is the only calendar that matters. You negotiate with landlords for a few more days, juggle bills to avoid shutoff notices, chase gigs that pay in cash. In that world, the idea of 30 years from now sounds like fiction. Retirement becomes a luxury for other people. This short horizon is rational in crisis, but it is lethal to compounding. Wealth grows in decades, not days. If your default planning window is a week, you won't see opportunities whose payoff is measured in years. Another rule says if it's complicated, it must be better. Complexity is seductive because it looks sophisticated. In money, complexity multiplies decisions. More decisions mean more chances to quit. Poverty punishes mistakes harshly. One wrong move can undo months of effort. That's why complex budgets and elaborate investing plans fail. The antidote is radical simplicity. A handful of accounts, a simple priority order, automatic transfers, a plain index fund. Simple systems are not childish, they are resilient. Add to this the rule of isolation. Poverty shrinks your network. You work odd hours, skip gatherings to save money, move apartments often. Network churn means fewer mentors, fewer introductions, fewer soft lifts when you stumble. Opportunities move through people. When you're socially isolated, you live downstream of other people's decisions instead of at the table where decisions are made. The internet can help, but only if you participate on the production side, sharing, asking, contributing, not merely consuming. There is a rule about identity too. If you've learned, implicitly or explicitly, that people like us never get ahead, you will unconsciously prove it true. We defend our stories, even the ones that hurt us. Identity determines consistency. You can't act against it for long. If you see yourself as bad with money, you'll sabotage good months to restore the familiar narrative. Your environment will happily agree with your worst beliefs. The way out begins with microscopic identity shifts. I am the kind of person who pays myself first, and evidence collected in tiny wins. Some rules masquerade as kindness. I help my people first, I'll worry about me later. Mutual aid is real and beautiful in communities that have been denied structural support. But without boundaries, generosity becomes another trap. You cannot pour from an empty account. The sustainable pattern is oxygen mask generosity. Secure your base, rent, food, emergency fund, then support others from overflow. That order isn't selfish, it's what keeps the helper able to help. Poor sleep, poor health, poor money, these travel together more often than coincidence can explain. Exhaustion makes impulse spending more likely, reduces patience, and blunts willpower. Cheap calories are engineered to soothe stress and cost more over time in medical bills and lost work. Neglected teeth become emergency room visits. A body under pressure pushes the mind to seek fast relief, which is rarely cheap. Investing in rest and routines is not self-indulgence, it is infrastructure for better decisions. Predatory products exploit all of these rules. Buy now, pay later normalizes debt in smaller, friendlier fonts. Rent-to-own stores sell a $400 appliance for $1,200 over time. Check cashing services skim fees where banks would be cheaper. Subscription traps turn forgetfulness into revenue. On the internet, casinos live in your pocket and call themselves games. These products understand your rhythms better than you do. The only durable defense is to step outside the game. Close doors you don't want to walk through at 1 a.m. There is also the rule of invisible leakage. Untracked cash, forgotten subscriptions, miscellaneous fees, just this once expenses. Leakage is small but relentless. Because each drip feels trivial, you ignore it. Because it is constant, it cancels progress. Tracking every cent forever is unrealistic, especially under stress. Tracking the big flows, the top 5 merchants, the 3 biggest bills, and the automatic charges catches most of the leaks with a fraction of the effort. The goal isn't perfect accounting, it's conscious flow. Legal invisibility is another silent rule. If your work is off the books, you may earn today and pay later in denied benefits, no unemployment support, and no credit history to qualify for decent housing. If your immigration status is precarious, you may fear engaging with formal systems at all. These realities aren't solved by a mindset pep talk. But within the constraints, documenting what you can, proof of rent paid, references, consistent deposits into a basic account, creates a bridge to formality when the opening arrives. Then there's the rule of external control, the belief that your money fate is set by bosses, politicians, or luck. External forces matter, so does agency. If you believe nothing you do changes outcomes, you'll wait. Waiting becomes your plan. People break this rule not by magical thinking, but by stacking small wins that are undeniably theirs. Paying a utility 3 days early, moving a phone plan to a cheaper provider, finishing a free course, sending one thoughtful email per week to someone who might refer work. Agency is a muscle. It grows with use. All of these rules create a vicious cycle with one more: shame. Shame keeps you silent. Silence keeps you ignorant. Ignorance keeps you exploited. Shame says, fix it alone and don't let anyone see the mess. But money is learned in public, through conversations, corrections, and borrowed courage. You don't have to broadcast your bank balance to the internet, but you do need a small circle where numbers are spoken plainly and goals are allowed to be ambitious. If these are the rules of poverty, what are the counter rules that break them? Not a list of hacks you'll forget next week, but a design that holds even when you're tired. Start with Slack, one small cushion that interrupts the cascade from annoyance to emergency. Even $300 transforms a broken kettle from a disaster into an inconvenience. Build it in a boring place you can't swipe at the grocery store. Automation is next. Money moves on payday before you do. When future you gets paid first, present you spends what's left without guilt. Name the accounts for what they buy, in feelings, peace of mind, freedom fund, so transfers feel like votes for a better story rather than punishments. Simplify the layout. One account where income lands, one for bills, one for spending, one for safety. If multiple incomes arrive chaotically, give them a holding tank and release them on a schedule you control. Put bills on the same few days each month where possible, even if it means calling providers to adjust due dates. Fewer decision points mean fewer ambushes. Replace avoidance with rituals. A 5-minute money check-in every Friday does more than a 3-hour budget session you'll never repeat. You're not auditing your soul, you're glancing at traffic. Ask 3 questions. Did anything weird happen? Can I prevent it next time? What small win can I lock in today? Pair this ritual with something pleasant, coffee, music, so your nervous system stops bracing for pain when you open the app. Shift identity with evidence. You don't become good with money by declaring it, you become it by catching yourself in the act. Every time a transfer hits, say out loud, I keep my promises to my future self. When you delete a subscription, note the yearly total saved so your brain feels the win. When you say no to a status purchase, say yes to something your values actually crave: sleep, safety, time with someone you love. Move from debt as default to debt as a temporary tool. If balances are many and motivation is low, the snowball method, smallest to largest, produces fast emotional wins. If you're steady and want the mathematically optimal route, the avalanche, highest interest first, saves more. Either way, automate the extra payment and hide the cards you don't want to use. Treat available credit like a fire extinguisher, behind glass, great to have, not for daily use. Fight isolation by engineering rooms that normalize the future you want. That might be a free online community where people post their weekly wins, a library workshop, a local entrepreneurship meetup, or a friend who agrees to do parallel money hours with you over the phone. You're looking for environments where saving is praised, investing is ordinary, reading the fine print is cool, and ambition is not mocked. Protect your attention like cash. Marketers spend billions to hijack it. Your job is to build gates. Turn off one-click checkout. Delete shopping apps you only open at midnight. Move social media off your home screen if it keeps you in comparison spirals that trigger spending. If online gambling or day trading is a risk, install blockers and give the password to someone you trust. You are not weak, you are human in a lab built to test you. Transform distrust into cautious participation. Open the simplest, lowest fee account at a reputable institution. Keep balances small until your confidence grows. Use prepaid cards for categories where you overspend. Document income and rent payments so you accumulate a history you can present to a future landlord or lender. Read one plain language guide to your worker rights or benefits in your country. Every small step toward formality buys you protections you can't access outside the system. Finally, lengthen time. You do this not by willpower, but by creating milestones your brain can feel. 90 days is long enough to matter and short enough to imagine. Set a 90-day theme, stability, safety, skill, and build 3 tiny behaviors that repeat weekly in service of that theme. At the end, calculate the change in euros and in stress. When your nervous system learns that the future really does arrive because you acted, it will cooperate more readily next time. None of this pretends that structures and policies don't matter. They do. Wages, housing, healthcare, education, these are enormous variables outside individual control. But within the circle you can influence, the rules you choose matter. Poverty's rules are sticky because they are adaptive responses to a hard environment. You can respect why they emerged and still decline to keep living by them. So here is a compassionate blueprint. Start with Slack. Automate a small promise to your future self. Simplify the map so a tired you can follow it. Replace avoidance with a 5-minute ritual. Guard your attention. Join rooms that talk like the future you. Build an identity one evidence tile at a time. As the weeks turn, your time horizon will stretch. You will notice that you say no to impressing strangers and yes to protecting your mornings. You will stop auditioning for wealth and start constructing it, quietly, steadily, in ways that can survive a bad month. The old rules lose power, not because you've become someone else overnight, but because you've surrounded your ordinary self with a system that makes the better choice the easy one. That is how cycles break. That is how freedom begins.